its bigger air spaces, it enables it to mix well with cement. So cement mixes well with this sandy soil, and then that's why it is now good for construction. And many people, they use it to construct their houses, even buildings, even schools. And then the other one, another characteristic, number 12, it has highest capillarity. It has highest capillarity after a few seconds. If you are conducting the experiment for capillarity, we shall look about it. When you are conducting this experiment, you'll find that water will rise fastest in sandy soil. And within 10 seconds, if you are doing this experiment and then they ask you observe after 10 seconds, you realize that the type of soil that will have the highest capillarity will be sandy soil. So for the first few seconds, it occupies that one that has got highest capillarity. The other one does not stick together when wet. Number 13, does not stick together. Does not stick together when wet. When it is wet, it does not stick together when wet. And then my last characteristic about this sandy soil is that it is used to put out fire. It is used to put out fire. Used to put out fire. In standard 7, I believe under composition of air, you learn that carbon dioxide is used to extinguish fire. In places where we lack carbon dioxide, instead of using water, we use sandy soil to extinguish fire because it spreads easily on the surface. And you can find it will form a blanket on the surface and the fire can do what? Get extinguished. Another type of soil I want to look at is now what we call loam soil. Let me look at loam soil before I look at clay soil. Loam soil. This one has very few characteristics. And this soil here, we can realize that wherever we are building our houses, the best soil that we can erect our house is where you have got this type of soil called loam soil. So one, it is good for agricultural activity. Good for agricultural activities. If you want the best soil for farming, we shall go for this type of soil called loam soil. Another characteristic, it has a lot of humus. Has a lot of humus. The other name for humus, I said it is organic matter. So the type of soil that has got a lot of organic matter is that one called loam soil. Another characteristic of this loam soil, it has a moderate drainage. Moderate, it's the same as average, has moderate drainage. I can write another one. Number 4, has a moderate capillarity. It is just average. Another one, number 5, has a moderate water retention. Has a moderate water retention. Water retention. So you'll find this soil, when you come to drainage, capillarity, and water retention, it is always moderate or average. Another characteristic, it does not get waterlogged. We shall learn the meaning of the word waterlogged when you come to clay soil. Does not get waterlogged. Does not get waterlogged. Number 7, which is the last characteristic here, it does not become acidic. Does not become acidic. Does not become acidic. You will find the soil that becomes acidic is the one that becomes waterlogged easily. And that one is the next type of soil you want to look at. So acidic, it comes from these chemicals that are mixed. When water stands on a surface for a longer period of time, that water because it has got some chemicals in it, and it becomes waterlogged, stands on the surface for a longer period of time, the soil becomes acidic, and it will kill all the organisms, living organisms in the soil, the ones that we learned in standard 4. So you realize that this one does not become acidic. This one is now the one that qualifies it to be the best soil for agricultural activities. Another type of soil we want to look at is the last one, which is known as clay soil. Clay soil has got very many characteristics. It has got more than 20, but I'll just look at a few that are common and that they will build us in this topic for today. So clay soil, on the other hand, is the third type of soil, and it has got different features that differentiates it from these other types of soil. So the first characteristic of this type of soil called clay soil is that it cracks when dry. When it is dry, it always cracks. It is the best soil for making a model, but when you have made a model for some time, it does what? It cracks. Number two, it has fine texture. The other name for fine is smooth. So it has fine or smooth texture. Texture in standard 1, it is the roughness or smoothness of soil. So it has fine or smooth texture. Number 3, it has small particles. Has small particles. And because it has got these small particles, so it means that it is less porous. In short, it has small air spaces. Let me write it less porous, or I can write it has little air spaces. Initially, I said sand soil or sandy soil, it is the most porous. It has got bigger openings in it, so it has got a lot of air spaces or large air spaces. This one, on the other hand, it is less porous. That's why it has little air spaces. Number 5, another characteristic of this type of soil called clay soil. It is the best soil for modeling. It is the best soil for modeling. If you want to model a cup, the best soil for modeling is this one known as clay soil. If you want to model anything, we use clay soil. Number 6, another characteristic, is the best soil for rice farming. Best for rice farming. For rice farming. If you go to these irrigation schemes in Kenya, like Mwea Tebere irrigation scheme, Ahero irrigation scheme, Pekera irrigation scheme, the type of soil that is best for rice farming here, although Pekera we don't have rice growing there, but the best soil that occupies there is what we call clay soil, because it retains a lot of water. And when water stands, we know that rice is aquatic plant. It grows in water. So this soil here now, because it retains water, it makes it the best for rice farming. Another characteristic is the best soil for fish farming. Fish farming. When we go to fish ponds, we'll find that that water retains on the surface. We have got water there. Because fish live in water, we cannot use sandy soil to make a fish pond. We use clay soil to make a fish pond. So this one is the best for fish farming. Another characteristic of this type of soil, we said sandy soil is a light soil. So this one is heavy soil. It is very heavy. Heavy soil. So that type of soil known as clay soil is heavy soil. Allow me to rub here as I continue. We have different features of clay soil. We said initially that this type of soil called sand soil has got lowest capillarity. So the opposite of the word low is high. So another characteristic of this clay soil is that it has the highest capillarity. Has the highest capillarity. Highest capillarity. Another characteristic of clay soil is that it has the highest water retention. It retains a lot of water. Water retention. And then another characteristic of this type of soil called clay soil has poorest drainage because it retains a lot of water. Water cannot drain in it properly, so has poorest drainage. And because it has got this poorest drainage, it results to what we call flooding. So it results to flooding. So that is another characteristic of this type of soil. Number 13, there is a question that they usually ask in standard 5, which type of soil is the best for decoration? The type of soil that is the best for decoration, if you go to rural areas, you'll find that some people, they smear their houses, the walls of their houses, using this type of soil. So they take clay soil, they mix with cow dung. So the type of soil that is best for decoration is clay soil. Or in ceramic industry, they use clay soil to make something like tiles. So it is the best for decoration. And then another characteristic, number 14, this type of soil has what we call slowest capillarity. Has slowest capillarity. We said sand soil has fastest capillarity. In short, water rises very fast in sand soil. But when it comes to clay soil, water rises slowly. So that's why we say it has got the slowest capillarity. Alternatively, we said on sand soil, it has got the lowest capillarity. The opposite of the word low is high. So it has got what we call highest capillarity. I wrote it there. So make sure you know the difference between highest capillarity and slowest. Slow, the opposite is fast. High, the opposite is low. The other characteristic, it is sticky when wet. It is sticky when wet. It sticks on your hands when you are modeling. That's why in class 3, they are supposed to do what? To model using different types of soil to identify which type of soil sticks on their hands and which one does not stick. And then number 16, I want to stop from there because it is there are many. It makes the longest ribbons. Makes the longest ribbons. Makes the longest ribbons. This type of soil can make many ribbons. In standard 2, the word ribbon was introduced as a snake. When learners were rolling soil, they were supposed to roll like this, and then they were asked, which type of soil makes the longest snake? And they found that the type of soil that makes the longest snake is clay soil. And then now in standard 3, they introduced that word as ribbon. So ribbon, we know mostly ladies, they use it to tie their hair. But in this other topic here in science, ribbon refers to that soil when you roll it to form something that is round and looks like a roller. And then lastly, another characteristic, I said here under loam soil that it does not get waterlogged. I don't want to leave it behind. When we come to this type of soil called clay soil, it is easily waterlogged. So number 17, it is easily waterlogged. Easily waterlogged. So I've just remembered something as we continue. They can ask you the areas that you can find this type of soil. So places that you can find them. Where can you obtain clay soil? Where can you obtain loam soil? And where can you obtain sandy soil? So I will begin with sandy soil. The areas you can find sandy soil. Which areas can you find it? Number 1, sand soil can be found, 1, at a place called construction site. The places they are constructing, you will find sand soil there because it is the best for doing what? Construction. Another place that you can find sand soil is at the seashore. We are now in science, at the seashore. In social study, they refer to this type of soil as silt. But in science, we don't have silt. So the type of soil in science that is found at the seashore is which we call sand soil. Number 3, this type of soil here, it is found even in the place called desert. Desert is the same as, okay, let me just write desert. In the desert. In the desert. Some books, they refer to it as arid or semi-arid areas. So in the desert, you know that the camels are adapted to, their hoofs are adapted to doing what? Walking in sandy places. So that's why you'll find that sandy soil is found in desert. And then the last part that we can find sand soil, we can find it on the riverbed, in the riverbed. The riverbed. The riverbed is the place where water does what? Passes. If this is a river, this is a river, the surface where water passes. As we know, when soil erosion takes place, soil particles is the main pollutant of water, so it is carried into the water, and because of this, the size of the particles, they remain on the surface. So this surface is what we call the bed. And then kando ya mto, this one, huku kando, this now is what we call the river bank. We shall find the type of soil that is found at the river bank. That one is another one. So on the riverbed, we find sandy soil. At the river bank, there is another type of soil. So be very keen with those two because learners usually mess there. And then when you come to loam soil is found in different places. One, it is found in the garden. You can obtain it in the garden. If you don't want to use the word garden, you can use the word in the farm. They can ask you which type of soil is found in the forest. It is obviously this type of soil called loam soil. So in the forest, we also get loam soil. Why? Because in the forest, we have got trees there. These trees, their leaves fall down, and when they fall down, they decay or decompose, and they form what we call humus, and this humus qualifies it. So the type of soil that is found in the forest is loam soil. And then when you come to clay soil is found in different areas. The first area that we can find clay soil is on an anthill. On an anthill. We have got something called an anthill. The termites are the one that makes it. Anthill, it's something that is raised. When these termites are somewhere, they make an anthill like this. So the type of soil that is there is clay soil, because if you touch the particles, they are very smooth. It is less porous. Even when it rains, it cannot fall down. Number 2, this clay soil is now found at a place called at the river bank. So we find clay soil at the river bank. Riverbed, we find sandy soil. Riverbank, we find clay soil. I think I'm now clear on that. Now let us look at the factors that are affected by the size of soil particles. Factors that are affected by the size of soil particles. Factors that are affected by the size of soil particles. Allow me to rub here. Factors that are affected by the size of soil particles. So as I've gone through these characteristics of these types of soil, now let us look at the factors now that affect this size of the soil particles. Okay? Allow me to write factors that affect the size of soil particles. There we go. Factors that affect the size of soil particles. The size, I did not write it properly. Let me erase it and write properly. Factors that affect the size of soil particles. Number one, these soil particles are determined by these factors. The first factor that determines the size or that affects the size of soil particles is what we call soil texture. If the soil is rough, definitely it will have bigger size of the particles. If it is smooth, it will have small particles. So soil texture affects it. Number two, another factor that affects it is soil capillarity. How water rises through the soil capillarity. Another factor that affects these soil particles, the size of soil particles, is what we call soil drainage. Soil drainage. And then number four, another thing that affects is soil water retention. And then, is it last or second last? The second last one is the air spaces in the soil. Air spaces in the soil. Air spaces in the soil. And there is a statement that I said, it is the amount of air spaces that determines the size of the soil particles. Okay? And then the last one is the amount of air in the soil. Amount of air in the soil. So these are the main factors that affect the size of soil particles. Amount of air in the soil. I think I'm now clear on that. Now let us look at now the aspects of this soil or the physical properties of soil now in standard 5. Coarseness is the coarseness, or the opposite of smooth, they use the word fineness, or fineness of soil. How fine the soil is and how coarse the soil is. That is now what we call soil texture. And now this soil texture, it depends on the size of soil particles. That's why I wrote it here. The factors that affect it. So the size of soil particles affect it. I don't want to write it down there. So there are some activities that are used to investigate soil texture. So let me write there activities. Activities to investigate soil texture. There are some activities that you can investigate this type of soil called, soil texture, and you can know which one has got rough texture, which one has got smooth texture. It is an experiment. So the first activity, you are supposed to collect, how I wish it was on the screen. There it is. The first activity, you are supposed to collect 3 different types of soil. That is activity number 1. Activity number 2, you spread those soils on the table. And then the last activity, you fill each type of soil with fingers. So when you are doing this experiment on soil texture, you use your fingers to feel. So conclusion, you realize that clay soil has fine texture or smooth texture. And then another conclusion, loam soil has moderate texture. And then the other conclusion you can make is that sand soil has rough or coarse texture. I believe when you're doing this experiment, those are the things you need to know. So you just have 3 things. You collect the three different types of soil, and then 2, you spread those soils on the table, and then 3, you fill each type of soil using your hands or fingers. And when you will be filling it, you realize that there is a type of soil that is rough. Another one is smooth. Another one is moderate. Okay, there is a question they usually ask, which type of soil is a mixture of clay soil and sand soil? So loam soil is a mixture of clay soil and sandy soil. But you can keep your questions coming. By the end of this lesson, I'll look at them. So that activity, I believe it has been shared on your screen. I don't need to write it there. So another physical property of soil I want to look at is number 2, soil capillarity. Soil capillarity. So soil capillarity, First of all, we are supposed to know what is capillarity. Capillarity is the ability of water to rise up the soil. Is the ability of water to rise up. My teacher of English told me if I use rise, I'm not supposed to use the word up, but in science I can use it to rise up the soil. So I will disobey him a little bit. So capillarity is the ability of water to rise up the soil. So when it rises up, going upwards, if this one is soil, okay, I will draw the experiment for capillarity somewhere. When it is rising, moving upwards, that is now what we call capillarity. So soil capillarity also depends on this size of soil particles, and the larger the soil particles, the lower the capillarity. I can write that one. The larger the soil particles, the lower the capillarity. So when the soil particles are very, very, very large or too big, just know definitely that type, the capillarity will be low. So when the type of soil has got small particles, it means it will have the highest capillarity. And this experiment on capillarity we carry out for more than many hours, more than 12 hours, so that we can identify. Because there is a type of soil that has fastest capillarity within seconds, and that is sandy soil. So you're supposed to carry out this experiment on capillarity after some hours, and it is approximately 12 hours, half a day. So there are some materials that are needed when you're conducting capillarity. Because of time, I will be allowed them to be shared on the screen. Materials that are needed when you're investigating capillarity: 1, we need water. 2, we need cotton wool. 3, a transparent container or trough. 4, we need different types of soil. And then 5, we need 3 biopen casings of equal diameter. So the procedure, it shall be shared on the screen as I draw that experiment here. So this experiment, I've said you need a trough. 2, you need different tubes or biopen tubes. Those biopen tubes will assist you. This one is my first tube. I want to draw it here. The second tube, I can draw it here. And then the third tube, I can draw it here. So in carrying out capillarity, we need 3 similar tubes. These tubes, we shall find the factors that need to be the same. So the procedure that you are supposed to carry out, 1 is you put equal amount of cotton wool in the tubes. You put equal amount of cotton wool in the tubes. And then the second procedure, you are supposed to fill each tube with equal amount of soil, but of different type. And then number 3, put tubes with soil in the basin with water. And then the last one, observe how water rises. Now back on my board, if this is the experiment, you are supposed to place cotton wool in the tube. This cotton wool is used to do what? To hold the soil in its position. So when you place inside soil, the cotton wool will prevent it from going outside the tube. The other thing, so I can name it, so this one is cotton wool. We require the cotton wool. We require different types of soil. There should be different types of soil. We have different types of soil. And then we shall need water. Water is needed to be in this container here. So we just use one trough or a container, and this container we place water, and then we immerse those tubes inside them. So these tubes can be the biopen casings, or it can be any tube. So this one I can say they are biopen casings. or biro pen tubes. So why do you use the biro pen tubes? Because they are narrow. When you use something narrow, it is used for efficiency or accuracy to record slight change or slight rise of water. So if you have got these different tubes and then you realize, I want to draw the level of water here in these tubes. The first one is this one. The level of water is somewhere there. The second type of tube here, the second tube, I have drawn water up to a certain level here. And then the third one I have drawn up to this certain level here. So the tube that has got highest level of water there, that one we refer to it as clay soil when you have conducted this experiment for more than 12 hours. The type of soil that will have the level, the tube that will have the level of water that is low, that one will be sandy soil. And then this one here, the tube that has got moderate capillarity or average capillarity, we shall refer to it as loam soil. So I can now name this one as loam soil, this one as clay soil, and then this one as sand soil. But when you conduct this experiment, after 10 seconds, the type of soil that will have highest capillarity, water will not reach up to there, but the water will rise first in sandy soil up to somewhere here. That's why we say sandy soil has fastest capillarity. And then in clay soil, it will go slowly, water rises slowly but steadily. So after a few seconds, water will not have penetrated through the clay soil because it is less porous. So you'll find the level of water in sandy soil after a few seconds will be higher than compared to clay soil and loam soil. So I believe I'm clear on that. Now, observation, you will find that the tube with clay soil, even I have just elaborated there, will have the highest capillarity, while that one in sand soil, the tube that has sand soil will have what we call low capillarity. So conclusion here, we can say clay soil has highest capillarity. So conclusion, I can say that clay soil has highest capillarity. Another conclusion on this experiment, we can say that sand soil has lowest capillarity. Has lowest capillarity. And then the other conclusion, you can say loam soil has moderate capillarity. Has moderate capillarity. So these are the conclusions that we can make when we conduct an experiment called capillarity. Now there are conditions that do not affect. Which factors do not need to be the same when you are conducting this experiment on capillarity? Factors that do not need to be the same. Factors that do not need to be the same. Sometimes you can do this experiment and you'll find it does not show you the correct results. So there are some factors that you did what? You ignored. So when you're carrying these experiments, there are some factors that should not be the same. One is the type of soil. The type of soil should not be the same. Type of soil. So you'll find you are supposed to use different types of soil here. You use loam soil, clay soil, and sandy soil. If you, for example, you use only one type of soil, you will find the experiment will not be good. You will find the level of water in all the tubes will be on the same level. So if you see an exam, they have shown that the level of water is on the same level like this. You know the mistake that learners made is it was by doing what? Using the same type of soil. So you can see in these my tubes, the level of water, it's somehow the same. So the mistake that learners have made here is that they use the same type of soil. So the factors that should not be the same when you're conducting this experiment, one is the type of soil. Number two is the size of soil particles. Size of soil particles. Examiners are very, very, very funny. They want to test you. As we know, these types of soil have different sizes. So you'll find if you use the same size of soil particles, your experiment will look like this. So the size of soil particles should not be the same. Another thing that should not be the same, another factor that needs not to be the same when you're doing this experiment is the amount of water. Amount of water does not need to be the same. And then number 4, the size of the trough. The trough or basin. Because you are using one, it does not need to be the same. You will mass all those tubes in this basin or trough. So it does not need to be the same. So there are some things that need to be different. Now, there are some factors that do not need to be the same. Another one, let me add something I've remembered. The length of the test tubes should not be the same. One can be even 30 centimeters, another 20 centimeters. No problem. The length of the tubes should not be the same. Length of the tubes shouldn't be the same. I think we are together up to there. And then there are some conditions or factors that need to be the same when you're conducting this experiment. So which factors need to be the same? Allow me just write very fast because of time. Needs to be the same. So when you're comparing what we call capillarity, the tubes should be similar. One is similar tubes. When I talk about similarity, I don't talk about the color. In science, we go about the diameter. So the diameter of the tubes should be the same, so that when we place soil inside, it should reach at the same level. And then 2, the amount of soil should also be the same. Amount of soil. If you place here 2 spoonfuls of loam soil, in the other tube you place 2 spoonfuls of clay soil, and then the other tube 2 spoonfuls of what? Sandy soil. So the amount of soil should be the same. Another one, the other thing that should be the same is what we call the duration or time. Duration or time should be the same. So the time you immerse these tubes inside this trough, it should be the same time. So you cannot conduct this experiment by yourself. You're supposed to be a lot of people so that you can consider the time period there. So because of time, allow me to go very fast there. As I wind up, I can see my time is over. So the last thing here, I want to look at soil drainage. I just want it to be shared on the screen. Soil drainage. Drainage is the ability of soil to allow water to pass through it. So it is the ability of soil to allow water to pass through it in downwards manner. So drainage depends on what we call the size of the soil particles. So the soil with the largest particles has highest drainage, while the soil with the smallest soil particles has the lowest drainage. So there are some materials again that are needed to do what? To do this experiment on drainage. But because of time, I think I will not do what? Go through it. Okay? So materials needed, 1, we have got water, there in the screen. 2, we have got cotton wool. 3, we have got funnels. And then 4, we have got equal amounts of different types of soil. And then 5, we have got the measuring jar. So those are the materials that are needed, and they are in primary school syllabus. So the procedure, again, it can be shared on the screen. The steps that you are supposed to follow when you're carrying out that experiment on drainage is that you place funnels on the mouth of the big bottles, and then 2, you put cotton wool on the neck of each funnel. Put cotton wool on the neck of each funnel. 3, they have written there, put equal amounts of 3 types of soil in the funnel, and then 4, you pour equal amount of water in the funnel at the same time. And then the last one, if you're doing any experiment, is you observe. When you observe the experiment, you realize that observation, you'll realize that you'll come to conclusion that sand soil has highest drainage, loam soil has moderate drainage, while clay soil has the lowest drainage. And then there is a point to note that I said cotton wool is used to hold the soil in the funnel. So cotton wool is used to hold the soil in the funnel. When you are carrying out drainage in soil, the conditions that need to be the same, one, is the diameter of the necks or the diameter of the funnel. Two, the amount of soil needs to be the same. When I talk about diameter, if the funnels are different colors, color of the funnel does not affect, but it's the diameter. Number three, amount of water should be the same. And then number four, the duration or time, and then amount of cotton wool. So the factors that do not need to be the same, it is the same as this one for capillarity apart from the tubes, which is the amount of soil should not be the same. The type of soil should not be the same, the size of the soil particles, and then in the drainage you place there the size of collecting jar. So the size of collecting jar should not be the same. So because of time, I will have to stop there. Okay, thank you for those who have tuned up. Have a blessed weekend and have a blessed day today. As you wait for the second lesson for high school, I wish you all the best as you revise for your exams. Thank you.